On the occasion of the Paris Symposium in 1989, Professor Tamburello and Balosino proved the direct relationship existing between the holy shrouds and the features as portrayed in the Byzantine iconography according to the criteria used in the 6th century by various labs. The presence of the trunk of Christ with a beard on some Byzantine coins may probably mean there is a relationship with the Mandylion, or it is simply the result of the influence of the icon studies. It is necessary to carry out numismatic research which is sufficiently exhaustive as to the coins issued during the Byzantine Empire by Emperor Arcadius in 383 up to Johannes VIII in 1488. To carry out this analysis, which covers more than 1,000 years, we used the work by Rodolfo Monet Byzantine, published in 1930. This work was republished many times, and it has become the basic reference point for international numismatics and for the identification of Byzantine coins to be sold. It is relatively easy to find this work. The same cannot be said of the Catalogue Byzantine, published in 1970, which is now sold out, or the Catalogue of Byzantine coins of the British Museum. Rodolfo Rato carried out a very accurate analysis of 2,254 different Byzantine coins, also filling the gaps existing in the three words he used for his estimations. We examined the Christian symbols as well as their evolution from 383, the location, the position of both sides of the coin of the chest of Christ. We are aware of the fact that
perfettamente esaustivo perché alcune monete sono del tutto sparite.
Archaeological excavations can help to find new exemplars of unknown coins, also because the catalogue has gaps, but we are convinced of the fact that our study reflects exactly reality because of personal reasons. The technical exposition will be in French, so I would like to apologize with the Italian-speaking people. I'll go on with French. It will be easier also to save a little bit of time. I will give you an overview of the Byzantine coins, and I would like to say that on the Byzantine coins there was one side and the other, and the upper side is predominating because the emperor is always portrayed there, so that side is the most important one. There were labs all over the empire. Materials used were gold, silver, copper, bronze. Byzantine coins are also conveyors of messages, political messages and religious messages. During the period ranging from 383 to 527, we see progressively appear Christian symbols. So we have Constantinople and then victory, And on these coins we had progressively the Christian symbols, like for instance the cross. We have the addition of the cross here. This is under Justiniano I. For the first time in 527, an emperor makes his portrait depicted on a coin with all of the Christian attributes. One more. Again. Under the reign of Tiberius Constantinus, 578, we see a cross, and all of the allegorical and pagan representations are abolished, are banned. All of the coins have on one side or both sides Christian symbols. Let's now consider the coin which was just shown and which was issued in 685 under Justiniano I. Could you go back one slide? So we stressed the existence of Christian symbols on the coins from 383 to 587, where we can say that we found a lot of Christian representations under first reign of Justiniano II, which goes from 527 to 685. We find coins bearing the head of the emperor on the posterior head side, while the first on the upper side we find the chest of Christ, which is named Christ Emmanuel, with a short and curly hair and without beard. And there is the writing there, Christus Regnus. He was described as young Christ, beardless young Christ. Of the equally good coins allow us to state that we are faced with a face having a small kind of crown of beard. This can be kind of intriguing. Slightly later, other coins, golden coins, were issued having the head of Christ, similar to the Byzantine icons, some part of hair on the forehead. And we know that this representation comes from direct observation of the holy face of the shroud. It is therefore necessary to look for what could push the emperor to issue those coins with this new portrait. Up to that time, no similar coin was existing. Gossip said that the emperor was worshipping pious images because he was superstitious. He was very worried about the destiny of the Edessa veil, but he had no money, no financial means or military means to get it back. The Council of 692 was convened, dealing with dogmatic problems. Among the various disciplinary rules, we find quite very interesting number 92, because it explains the icons of Christ and the issuing of coins. We decided, this is a quotation, we decided as of now on the icons, instead of the old lamb, the human traits of Christ will be portrayed, who took on himself the sins of the world. This explains that after the wars, the issuing of the coin, you can see here, according to the Byzantine iconographic rules. As to the first issuing on the with the style of beardless Christ, it is the same style of the emperors of that time. So we can think that the engravers for the coin, they wanted to portray the face of Christ according to the common style of that period, because there was no rule at that time. Justiniano II introduced a second series of coins, and he brought the emperor on the downside, on the posterior side of the coin. On the anterior part there was Christ. Christ was predominating, and this was never seen in the previous numismatic history. Slightly later, in 685, the Putsch made the emperor, brought down the emperor. Many conflicts, internal conflicts started, and the decadence started from 685 to 717. Various putches took place with various emperors. In 717, the Syrian Leo III seized the power and imposes upon the country, upon the empire, iconoclastic rules. During the period 726, 843, there were no Christian symbols. Quite often, pretty soon, coin was issued which portrayed the chest of Christ, which was similar, identical to the one which was printed on the one issued during the Justinian period. We see therefore that Christ is again predominating over the emperor. The feature of this period, which goes up to 944, lies in the fact that for the first time Christ's chest is portrayed on 8 coins, which were coins of 8 kingdoms. These are kind of coining influenced by Rule 82 of the Council, which is in turn an indirect consequence of Mandilion in Edessa. And now let's move to the period which, from the numismatic point of view, goes from 945 to 1204, because there was a new emperor and because the Shroud get to Constantinopolis. Since the beginning of the reign of Constantinus VII in 945, our attention is attracted by a new fact, that every coins in gold have Christ portrayed on the posterior side with beard. This event went on through the different reigns of the different emperors. So Christ is always depicted on the front of the coin as a bust or as a face, starting with Roman III in 1028. On a number of coins we begin saying and Christ enthroned at the moment of the fall. Of Constantinople. All coins have a Christ on one of the two sides, or a bust, either a bust or a Christ on a throne. Quite rarely we have the Virgin Mary, Saint Demetrius, Michael, Constantine, or Nicholas. They are all warrior saints. There's a difference in style is explained by the fact that the Mandilion reached Constantinople 15 August 1944.
On comprend donc qu'il n'y a pas lieu de s'étonner de trouver ce changement important sur les pièces de monnaie.
Then no wonder if an important change is visible on the coins, because the shroud becomes the most important relic in the imperial period. In the 200 years following from 945 to 943, all coined currencies bear the
effigy of the Christ, that is all gold and silver coins and many other coins. Now let's go from the period 1104 to 1453. Here we have the empire occupied by these crusaders, and a new coin was issued. We have a reestablishment of the empire through Michael VIII, and in the following years no new coins were coined bearing the bust of Christ. Under Manuel II in 1311 we find with surprise that all coins again bear the image of the Byzantine Christ up to 1204, and this up to the final fall of the empire. The image is not so detailed because we have a decline of the empire. Manuel II resumed coining currency after an interruption of a century. He needed financial and military aid in order to fight military attacks by the Sultan.
Vers 1390, il avait envoyé son nom.
By 1390, his uncle Theodore Cantacuzene was called in order to give him military aid against the French soldier. And a winning campaign was led by Jean Le Maigre in order to thank Richard VI, but in order to ask other resources, the emperor went to France and remained here for 2 years. The Shroud of Turin had only been displayed twice. The first displayed in 1356 lasted 1 year. Many pilgrims went there. The bishop of the place, Henri de Poitiers, called a commission of theologians.
La deuxième ostension se déroula 33 ans plus tard.
And the display of the shroud was prohibited. The second time, this display took place 30 years later, and the Bishop of Troyes, Pierre d'Assise, prohibited its adoration. The widow of Geoffroy de Charny had married a cousin of the Pope of Avignon, Clement VII, and so these good relations to the king allowed them to obtain the authorization of going on with the display of the shroud, but the Bishop d'Arcis invented the existence of a forger who had made the image of the relic. So Clement VII used his political influence. In a letter of August 4th, 1389, the shroud was sequestered, and Clement VII, in order to solve this situation, pronounced a Solomonic judgment, thereby authorizing the display, but the faithful should be advised that it was a painted cloth. And then the uncle of the emperor arrived to France. This internal crisis was perceived by him, since he was very attentive to the French influence. He needed their influence for the empire of Orient. But during his stay in France, Theodore recognized in the relay relic the shroud which had disappeared. Did he go to Lire himself, or did he send a messenger? We do not know this. But in this moment, a new coin was issued with the bust of Christ. By way of a conclusion, we should look closer to these coins issued by the Crusaders. Only the coins made in Edessa were coined with the image, with the bust of a Byzantine Christ, like in the great period of Constantinople, as if they had the memory of a shroud which was then present and then had left the town in the former century. This happened in 1418. And now let me come to the conclusion. Here on the left we have the great events which can be considered important for the shroud, and then the events which are important as to the numismatic situation. We have the coining in 945. This is often neglected, but important events should be mentioned here. We have an interruption in 1204, and then coins are coined again during the reign by Constantine, when the shroud reappears in France. So correlations should be hypothesized here. So this overview of Byzantine coins is interesting. There is a convergence of numismatic events with the disappearance and reappearance of the Turin shroud. Thank you.